Hello and a warm welcome back to part 2 of this week's episode of the Third Half podcast. It's still a podcast where we talk all things sport.fun, and we took a break on the last episode in between the NFL and football, so we're going to jump straight back into it. Moving on to the final NFL point, which is also a crossover to the first football point. I'll read both of these out together, and then I'll give my answer to the question that you asked. So the next one is, off-season rewards have enough value to hold for the 22 weeks. And the first football statement we have is, you'll get a better return from football than you will NFL over the next 4 months. So two contrasting statements there. One is saying that the NFL will hold for 22 weeks and you're going to be fine and you're going to see value. The other one's saying, go to football, you'll get better rewards. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, well, you're the one who made a big move. So yeah, let's hear it.
I'm very football first. I'm a Brit. I am a fan of the NFL. I believe I've got good knowledge of the NFL. However, I'm not an expert in the NFL. I'm not somebody who watches college level. So when I watch a rookie play, I watch them for the first time in the NFL. I'm not somebody that goes, right, this guy who's number one draft pick is a dime. Often when I watch the draft, I'm like, don't know who this guy is, just because I'm not that deeply invested. So that's one thing, that I don't know what the draft is looking like and the players getting added. I'm also on the strong understanding that trades are going to be happening in the next few months for the NFL. So a player that I have as wide receiver 1 might get traded to another team. They might be wide receiver 2, in which case they're not going to get the targets, they're not going to get the points, I'm not going to see the value. So I was a little bit skeptical of the picture that I'm going to be coming back to for the start of the NFL season. I had initially planned to hold some of the younger guys. I was looking at Emeka Egbuka, I was looking at Laird McConkey, Bucky Irving. I was looking at some of these guys that haven't scored TP, were very, very low in value, and I was going to buy them and hold them. And I thought, well, because they've scored either once, twice, maybe no times throughout the season in the top 5 TP, I'm not going to get any rewards for the off-season. I might as well just sell everybody and buy back down the line. Yeah. So that was my personal opinion. I look at the first point that we made on the football, and I believe that to be true for myself. I believe that I'll get a better return in football than I will NFL over the next 4 months. Now, I see the NFL as low risk, low reward. You know, you put it in, you're not going to see sporadic movements. You can calculate the TP that you're going to earn. Any sales in that player will only give you more TP, offsetting, some of the price change, in which case, low risk, low reward. I see the football as high risk, high reward. A player can get injured tomorrow and miss 6 months and their price, decimates. Somebody could get sold to, obviously we've just come out of January transfer window. Somebody could get sold to a league that's not in SportDotFun. Mm-hmm. So it's high risk, high reward. My mind, though, is turning towards the World Cup. I'm starting to look towards the World Cup and starting to think, right, what are we doing here? I want to keep my cash disposable, flexible, moving it around, and being able to kind of just focus on the football. So that's where I've been. Now, I didn't sell out the NFL to move the funds into SportDotFun. I sold NFL and withdrew. I've said to you, I've said in Discords, I'm looking to change jobs. I need to buy a second car. So I thought, right, I'll take the cash, and spend it personal wise. So, that was what, it wasn't the reason of I needed the money, but I was like, kill 2 birds in 1 stone. But yeah, so I'm all in now on the football, and I will be going into the World Cup. I know for a fact I'll be jumping back over to the NFL. by the time I jump into the NFL, prices might have doubled and I might have, lost out in that aspect. And I'm happy for that to happen. But yeah, I'm in agreement or belief that I can get a better return in football than I can NFL with TP wins and price changes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's my very long-winded answer.
So I think that's totally reasonable. I think the way that you kind of put it, that NFL, I don't know if it's low risk makes it sound like there are plenty of risks. Like we see just people sell
Of
and
course.
all that. But I think you could make the argument that the off-season TP is good, and you could make more from football.fun. Like both of those things can be true. And so I think what you did is going to be copied by a lot of people. I don't think they're doing it yet, although maybe they are. I don't know. But I think, just like you said, I think the run up to the World Cup is a really big opportunity for the platform, and just having shares in now, allows you to win more TP, which allows you to get more shares, like just to be able to compound it before the World Cup, I think is absolutely sharp. And like, I didn't move any NFL money from that. I didn't take any NFL to put into football.fun because I feel like my port size on football.fun it doesn't like change drastically because it's so much bigger anyway. So I'll just keep the NFL stuff. But yeah, I think what you did is totally reasonable. And I think it will be true that the football side will be more, will grow more than NFL over the next few months.
And I think it's such awkward timing because should it have been that we didn't have the World Cup, I would 100% say that the NFL would be a good move. My only worry is that we will see sell-offs in a few months' time from the NFL to put money into football, because I believe that the team are going to do something very, big. They're going to have different tournaments, special tournaments, probably pumped up TP tournaments. They're going to have, we're seeing these kind of mini games going on. We're going to have SDF Predict. I think it's going to be so buzzing around the World Cup that people are going to FOMO like hell and run over. And in which case, you then kind of ride the World Cup, sell off the World Cup, and then people will drive back over to the NFL. And like I say, I'm somebody that, I like to be flexible. I like playing the game. I'm not a passive person. I don't want to just look at numbers there. So again, maybe I'll absolutely fuck up the next 6 months. Maybe I'll deplete my port in bad trades and lose in TP, and I should have stayed in the NFL. But put your money where your mouth is and go from there. So the next one, we'll stay on the football. Where are we looking? It's quite an interesting one, this one, actually. Defender is the hardest to consistently pick the top 5 for. What are your thoughts on that one?
So my initial thought was like, is that actually true? And meaning, do we see more variability with defenders than we do the other positions? Like, it does feel like Yamal and Mbappe are always kind of like in the top 5, although I looked down in this past game week, tournament, they weren't. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're all just kind of, not random, certainly not the right word, but I feel like I'd like to see what the distribution is of like how many different defenders have gotten in the top 5 on a percentage of like how many there are versus forwards. Surely there's a dashboard somewhere that has that, but yeah, I don't know if that's right. Like looking at my own portfolio, let me see who I like defender wise. I don't think I have that many, but like my top 5 are Nuno Mensch, Nico Schlotterbeck, both of which are much higher than everyone else, and then Van Dijk, Dean Heisen, who I bought some today, and Gahey. And I feel like they're enough. I don't know, like maybe
it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Again, my mind went to that as well. I was like, I wonder what the actual information is. I remember at the start of the season, Gerald Kwanzaa went from Liverpool to Bayer Leverkusen. And in the start of the season, he kept scoring headers off corners. And I don't know if you remember, he was like top five. And I think the defender one is so difficult because you rely on kind of your team clean sheet and winning the game. But the defenders, you probably are relying on a defender to score a goal to get top five. Because if a defender scores a goal, you are top five. Like, I don't think we've ever seen, or maybe we have, but not that often. I don't think we see defenders score goals or get assists and not be top five. Whereas for the midfielders, again, a reason I love Pedri, Barcelona play such high pressing possession football that Pedri can do nothing other than stand on the halfway line and pass. And those completed passes get a boost because they're in the opponent's half. And he just, stat pad, stat pad, stat pad, and he can scrape that third, fourth, fifth spot. But, you see it, you do see it with a defender where as soon as you kind of score a goal, you're top five. Now, the way I looked at it was you're looking at picks. So if I'm thinking week by week and I'm looking at fixtures and lineups for the goalkeepers, I'm looking and saying, right, this team is playing a very weak team at home. They're probably going to keep a clean sheet. So they're going to get the win. They're going to get the clean sheet bonus. He's got a good chance of finishing high for a goalkeeper. You're looking at strikers and doing the same on the flip side. You're looking at, right, Bayern Munich are playing whoever they're playing. Harry Kane's going to score a hat-trick. Easy pickings. Again, on the midfielders, we've got a lot of midfielders. Cole Palmer, who's a kind of a centre forward, and Michael Elise, again, in that centre forward role, who are kind of wingers or attacking midfielders who you kind of think, yep, they're going to get on the score sheet or get assists. You can predict. The only reason I probably agree with that is I think defenders are, like I say, they're a dice roll. Is Grimaldo going to score a free kick from 40 yards and just get top five? It's one I need to go and do my homework for.
I think it's as simple as with forward and midfielder, I hate to call them sure things, but the players are going to show up all the time. It's Yamal, Mbappe, Kane, and Haaland even kind of dropped off a little bit. But if you were like, who are the safest ones? It's like Yamal, Mbappe, Kane, and you can make a case for Haaland. You can make a case for like Luis Diaz when he's fit. But it's like, those guys are going to be near the top most weeks. And then you go to the midfielders and you're like, I know it's going to be Pedri. I know it's going to be Olise. I know it's going to be Vitinha,
yeah.
Maybe you put Bruno in there somewhere. Like Cole Palmer is now the third most expensive midfielder, and he's been awful most of the season. But just takes one big game, and everyone's like, "There he is, he's back." But then you go to defenders, and you're just like, "All right, who's the best defender?" And you're just like, "They're all kind of just the same." And just the price discrepancy from first to, I'll say 10th, but you don't even need to go that far. First to fifth. For the other positions, it's like there's a very clear five. And then for defender, everyone's kind of they're not exactly the same price, but Gabriel's number one right now, 0.038. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hakimi's seventh at 0.0279, so 1 cent less. And you just don't see that in the other positions because you have what you think are sure things. And with defenders, they're just not there. It also feels like maybe they don't play as much, meaning Hakimi's been kind of in and out. Obviously, we lost him for AFCON. Ruben Diaz just came back. Nuno Mensch has been hurt for a bit. Dean Heisen was hurt for a little bit. And so maybe they would be more, and Gabriel was hurt too. So maybe they would be different if they played as much as Yamal plays, for example. But I think that's the issue with defenders is that it's the hardest because because nobody is exponentially better than everyone else like we have in the other positions.
No, well, I suppose without looking at the actual finishes, just by the price alone, maybe that, proves the point, like you say. So interesting. We've got. I'm going to skip over that next one because that's we've kind of discussed on the packs. I'm going to drop down to this one. So the next step we've got is 200 players will be enough. 250 is too many. I suppose again that comes back down to what do you need for a top 5 finish? There's certainly players I think that warrant being in the game. I think one at the moment that everybody's talking about is Semenyo, just obviously went over to Man City. But yeah, I probably agree that 250 is too many. The only thought is kind of how do you add players in without removing? Because, some of these guys that are in the game are 25, they might not retire for 8 years. Now, not saying they're going to stay in the top divisions, but, certain players like I've mentioned him before, Nico Barella, I doubt he's ever going to leave the Serie A. Yes, he might not play for Inter, but if he's always in the Serie A, he's always within Opta's range, he's always within SportDotFun. How do you get him out of the ecosystem to add in a new player? So we're balancing Jenga bricks here. What are your thoughts?
So I think 250 is way too many. Also, I'm wondering if 200 is too many.
Yeah.
So there are players that are not on the platform that we're like, oh yeah, it would be cool if they were on, but they're not that many. Like we're at technically 140, but like Singo's gone, retired. So like 139. Like, is 150 reasonable? Like, are there 11 players that you could just rip off right away that are missing?
Yeah. And that's, I don't think so. So my thought process wasn't about the players that are missing. It's about the players that are coming in. Now, when I think about adding into players, so we've just spoken about the price of the strikers and how you've got the clear outliers in the attackers and the clear outliers in the midfielders. Can you name a midfielder or attacker that will enter into the game who is going to get a top 5 finish at least twice a season? That's missing currently.
Right.
Because I can think of a couple, but I mean, we're seeing it even, likes of Marcus Rashford. And I think there's already so many players where they're not playing, they're not starting. And my worry is, I would be, like I say, I'd be really happy for them to cut down and say, yeah, 150 players, that's all that you can pay for. But I just don't know how you exit players from the ecosystem once you've added them in. I just don't know.
Like, I think there are players that you're like, oh, they're really good. They could be good in the game, but that doesn't mean that people want to buy them.
Like a Julian Alvarez. So Sorloth went off injured, I think 2 weeks ago with a head injury. Julian Alvarez came on after about 20 minutes. The next game, Julian Alvarez started. Sorloth came on off the bench after 45 minutes. So Sorloth is clearly back fit and healthy. So which means Julian Alvarez is going to get limited minutes. So because Julian Alvarez, brilliant footballer, by the way, he's not playing full 90 minutes. He's not starting every game. He's not playing full 90 minutes. He's not the main goal scorer. So he's in the ecosystem, but he's rarely going to score top 5. And it's like, what do you do with these kind of fringe players? We've had James Trafford in the game this whole time, who's played only in the cup games for Man City, which don't count in Sport.Fun. There was talks that he would exit in January. He's stayed at Man City. Does he go in the summer? And it's like, what do you do with these players that once they get added in, they get benched straight away? Like I say, Marcus Rashford, Rafinha was out, I think Yamal was out or whatever. He's come in on the left wing, scored a couple of goals. Rashford's back injured again with a knee problem. What do you do with these kind of fringe players who are very good, but they're not starting? It's odd.
I think there's always the kind of argument for a player like Alvarez that if nobody wants him and then he gets a top 5 and you're the only one who has him, like that's a huge advantage. So I think it's okay to have guys in the game like that. But if we had a lot of players that everyone's like, I can't believe this guy's not on football.fun, and it was 15, 20 players, then 200 makes sense. But like the one that jumped out when it launched that wasn't on the platform was like Musiala, but he was hurt and everyone's like, oh, he'll get added later. It's February. Nobody is like, man, I can't believe they
Whereas,
still don't have Musiala on the platform. So it was like Musiala and staying with Bayern, like Alphonso Davies, like these are players that are interesting, probably more interesting like for the World Cup, to be honest. Like Semenyo, I don't think anybody was asking for Semenyo until he
up
went to Man
until he's
City.
gone to
Like
Man City,
everyone
yeah.
who follows the Prem, like he's obviously a very good player. And, you know, some people would buy his shares, but again, we're not going with like I can't believe they don't have Semenyo.
Yeah.
And so if you just look at it from the perspective of showing this game to somebody else who isn't on the platform, you're like, you get to buy shares of the best footballers on the platform. And they're like, oh, I can't wait to buy like so-and-so. And you're like, oh, they're not on there. Like, we don't have any of those players. And so adding
I can,
60 is when we can't even think of like 5 right away. It doesn't seem necessary.
I can imagine that we see players getting added around the World Cup. So you've got your Leonard Carl, you've got your Esteval, you've got these kind of players who are going to be potentially big for their nation, and they're going to be potentially big for nations that will go deep. But again, I have no issue with them adding quick, thick and fast players to the ecosystem if we had a way to exit them out. And at the moment we don't, because if I've paid for shares in this player and I now can't sell the shares, what? You know, and obviously Wilfred Singo is, you know, marked as retired because he's over in, I think, Turkey. I think he's at Galatasaray off the top of my head. You know, so you've got that kind of, it's a difficult one. But yeah, like like I say, I look at some of the players, and some of the players that are currently in the game, I don't. If we were to do this again, and if the game was to start today, there's some players in the game that I don't think would be added, and that's the problem. You know, that's where my mind goes. That if we were to go, we've got 0 players in the ecosystem. We need 150 names on a sheet. I can list you 20, 30 players that are currently in the game that I'd rather swap out.
Yeah. Yeah. And
in fact, I probably could if I went through the transfers and looked at them.
Yeah. I think I shudder at the idea of 250 and 200. I'm almost like, and maybe it's because we're just used to the number, but like, again, I'll just go back to what I said. If we can't name 5 right away that we want to add to the platform, how do we add 60?
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the forwards now. So it's showing me 39 forwards. And at the bottom of that, you've got Adeyemi, Romelu Lukaku, Højlund, Rashford, Jonathan David, Matheus Süle, Burkhardt, Gnabry, Voltemar, Isak. So up until Anthony, I'd stop at Anthony and Omar Marmoush. So Adeyemi, Lukaku's obviously been injured. Jonathan David's a bit crap. Süle's not a first team starter. Rashford's not a first team starter. Burkhardt, I think, is injured long term. Gnabry's quite a fringe player for Bayern. He's certainly not a first name on the team sheet. Voltemar came in. He's clearly shown that he's not good for this scoring system. Isak injured. So, you know, you've got these arguments of these guys need to be exited from the game. And like I say, I'd have no problem with cutting them down and stripping down to 100, 150 players. I certainly agree that 250 would be too many because, you know, that player number 250, what is their, are they ever going to get a top 5?
Right.
Probably the only time that person might get a top 5 is a silver tournament where they're one of 4 players that are playing in that position, and the TP, you know, you've owned 200,000 shares for a $5, and the TP that you get back is next to nothing. Like that's the only time that I can see. So, yeah, it's interesting. We'll keep it moving. I think we might have to part 2 this episode. If
maybe.
We'll keep it moving for now. So, FDF isn't really playable with a small budget sub $100. That's interesting. Can I ask, out of, you know, the people that you've kind of speak to or referred, has anybody come on with like a $50 and played the game?
I know of one person who did early on, and then they were like ineligible for the NFL drop because of how low they spent. And it was at a time when they were saying like, you can play on any budget. And he was like, I played on the small budget and now I'm being pushed out for NFL. And I think he left. Um, I, I don't know. Like, I don't talk to people who play other than that one person. I don't know anybody who plays with like under $100. And part of that is just like the people that I happen to know that got in have bigger wallets. Like that's what it came down to. In fact, in a lot of circles, like I'm by far the smallest player. And so I think the new pack system may change that. And I think one of the things that, like, I don't know who kind of made this comment. I imagine the bigger your budget is, the less likely you are to think a small budget is worth playing.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if it was you or someone else I was talking to that signed someone up that was like a smaller budget player, and they were like really psyched because they won like 40 TP one tournament, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like I'm almost to a pack," and then now they can open at any level. But you know, if you come in with $100 and you win enough TP to get a pack that's worth like $6, like that's good for that.
Pretty good.
So I don't think it's unplayable by any means. I do wonder if you're like better off trying to trade at that level instead of, but trading's really hard too, just with how much like what the fees are, and the fact that at that low budget you probably have no fun bonus, so you're not getting anything back. But I don't think it's unplayable at all. I think it just, it takes longer, basically.
Yeah. I think anybody that comes into this kind of game with a small budget has to have time on their side. There's two people that I know that I've referred, and I'm fairly confident that they're both still playing. And one of the guys was playing with, I think, sub $50 port, and the other guy is probably playing with around about $100. And it's certainly attainable. Now, I know that both of them, with the new slider, one of the first things I asked Rix was, what's the minimum? And he said 100 TP. And I was like, right, okay. Because I know some of them, it takes like 4 weeks for them to get 100 TP. So, if you can open, like you say, $6 worth of rewards every month in a stable market cap, a stable thing, you're getting a 6% return on your investment every month. It's pretty good if you ask me. And obviously that will compound over time. The only thing I think the problem is when the market cap jumps and drops so heavy. If you have $100 in the game and you have $25, you've got 5 players, for instance, you got $100 in the game, you got $20 per 5 players, all those 5 players you need to get you in the tournament. If you have one player miss, you're now not getting TP. If you have one player get injured, you've potentially lost a heavy chunk of your port. So I think it's definitely playable. I just think people playing at that level need to have patience. But one thing I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to ask that same question and say, I believe that SDF isn't really playable with an extremely large budget. And I will say that because of the liquidity. I think we saw today that there was kind of like $20,000-$30,000 sold, and the market cap went down like 0.25 million off one player pulling out 20-30K. I can't remember. I think there was like 80,000 Elise shares sold. And I can't remember what the price change was, but it was like, if I logged on and was looking at that, I'd be like, oh my God. And that's the problem, that I've had it before where I had like over 100,000 Hoyland shares. I think I had like $2,000 in him. That for many people is probably massive. That also for many people is really nothing at all. When I wanted to sell those Hoyland shares, it was so difficult because if the bigger you are in this kind of liquidity, if you sell shares, you can drop the price so heavy. I remember another instance, somebody said, I think they had like 13,000 shares of Erling Haaland. They sold it and it dropped the percentage. It dropped the market value down like nearly 20% of his price down 20%. So it's like, if you want to sell 10,000 Harlan shares and you drop that much, well, you're killing yourself because you're selling, at that staggered price. So you've kind of, if you want to sell, you've got to do it slowly, 1,000 here, 1,000 here, 1,000 here. Wait for other people to buy back into your sales to get a decent price. So I think if you look at any side of it, you can make arguments for it. But yeah, for this statement of it's not playable with a small budget, I think it is. You just got to be a little bit patient.
Yeah, which is kind of the case in any game that you have to pay for. Yeah.
Mm. Final one for this one is buybacks were better when split across all players, not just the winners. Interesting.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to buybacks at all. So like
Me
I
neither.
don't.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, when I go on Tenero and I'm like, oh, the buyback bot's working. Okay, like I don't know. Like if I see a player rise, I don't go and find out if it's just the buybacks or what. Like I'm just not well versed in that at all, and I'm not sure what it gets me if I do try to like dive in and find out more. So like I'm just like I'll let the math people know, or like let them focus on it, and if it becomes an issue, inevitably we'll hear about it and we'll understand why. But I'm just like I haven't felt it, or if there's like a difference, I can't tell the difference because of the buyback instead of just regular market movement.
Yeah, again, I'm the same. It's not like something that I've studied and that I can kind of tell you exactly how it's going. Um, I actually kind of think that the fact that I'm not aware of the buyback means it's doing a better job. The buyback is only a certain pool of funds that is gained off the fees. It's not an infinite pot. We can't just keep pumping the buyback in. So if the sale pressure is heavy, you don't want the buyback getting depleted by people exiting from the ecosystem. Now, often what happens is people will buy into a player, they'll finish in the top 5 TP, they'll get their TP, they might look at the next week fixture and they sell. And that often happens. You get a good fixture into a bad fixture, people hold for the good fixture, they score well, they get their rewards, they sell off, and the price is dropped for the next few weeks. And that buyback bot is just chugging away in the background of those players, balancing and flattening that price out for when the people want to buy back in 3-4 weeks' time. It's at that kind of level. And the people that want to hold long time, they're not seeing these massive peaks and troughs in their kind of port. So again, one that I'd probably like to study. But actually the fact that I don't pay attention is quite a positive thing for me, I think.
Yeah, if we can't notice it, then it's probably working.
Definitely. So we'll jump straight back into the next section, which is the token. I think we need a little bit of a disclosure that neither you or I are tokenomic experts. And I had a few kind of suggestions and statements from people, and I kind of said I'm gonna steer away from giving my backing on the hows and whys the token works, because I think I'd be speaking from completely the wrong place. However, we shall still give our opinion on some things. So the fun token offers the best ROI in sport.fun. Quite a bold statement. I think I was speaking to the person that suggested this, and their reasoning behind it was the utility of the token. They believe that the price of the token is so low compared to what it can offer within the wider game. And the fact that potentially buying into the token at this stage could offer bigger rewards selling in 6 to 12 months, as opposed to investing in any particular player. So when they were speaking about token, they were looking at the fun token compared to maybe buying a Yamal. So not putting money into football, but specific players that they believe that the fun token will offer the best ROI across anything in sport.fun. I think I actually lean towards that potentially being true. for the reason though that it needs to happen alongside having money in other tokens. So with the TP rewards and the fee rebates, I think it kind of is starting to not pay itself off, but starting to, recover the costs that you've put into buying the token. And then also when we see the scouting platform come off, from the little that we understand, I think it can, it's going to be quite an influential factor in the scouting game, shall we call it? That it could potentially be one of the better offers for ROI.
Do you want to read the next line too?
I wanted to pause on that one, but the next one is SportDotFun would be better without a token.
So I have not bought any fun token. I haven't bought any. Everything that I have is from the distribution that I got, and then what I've gotten in rewards since then. I've gotten to level 5 now. So I get like 25% fees back, 10% TP bonus. Level 6 is so high from level 5 that I just don't see myself, like, the amount that I have to buy to get there is just so much that I was like, I'd rather just put that in the game. I have no concept of what the potential is for the token in terms of price. Like, the fact that it can be traded by people who aren't on the platform and just kind of see it as an investment opportunity totally skews like my thought on what it's not. Like, you can buy fun token to have exposure to the platform without having to like play the game, which like I think is fine. But it also leads to the possibility that people buy it up because they're like, oh, this looks like a great platform. And then it just takes a bunch of people to be like, never mind. And then it tanks. And so I just like it's a really nice like side thing for me. I have yet to be convinced that putting money in the token is better than putting it into shares of football players or NFL players or whatever. And maybe that's by design, because if one seems so much better than the other, then you're going to take all your money from one and put it to the other. So, but I certainly have not had any thought of selling the token because of the benefits that I get in the game. And so I think that's a real positive, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going out and buying more. And if I'm not buying more, then the price doesn't go up. I mean, like if everybody felt the same way.
Yeah. I certainly agree that I think the sell pressure is going to be constant. Because we've still got people being drip fed their tokens from the ICO. Those that have bought in the ICO that have maybe lost faith or lost interest or whatever, and they're going, as soon as I get my full ICO, I'm selling. So that sell pressure is going to be there. It's going to be obvious. Again, I'm not a token expert, so I'm not somebody that can draw these squiggly lines on the graphs and say, because it did a left turn here, it's going to go up here. And I don't understand it. But for me, it's a very simple kind of construct of what is the reason to sell? What is the reason to buy? And I think at the moment, the reason to sell is because people want money. Everything's down. Everything's on a downtrend. Bitcoin's down. Ethereum's down. Gold's down. The market's down. So people want their money. They want their dollars. They want to pay their rent. I think in terms of utility for the reason to buy, I think we're going to find that on a game basis when we see developments in the scouting and stuff like that. And people go, right, this is a reason for me to now ignore everything else and to get involved and to pick it up. And I've picked up Fun Token. I'm probably 60, 70% down in terms of my dollar value on that. I've explained it before. Should I have paid when I did? Probably not, but I wasn't able to get the ICO, so I just jumped straight in, picked it up, FOMO'd in last minute. I was planning not to get any at all, and went, sod it. Probably a mistake looking back at it now. I should have not done that financially in right now. However, I'm level 4. I'm getting, what is it, 15%, I think, boosts. I can't remember the percentages. And I'm looking at it and saying that, yeah, actually, I probably can get drip fed back TP boosts, get drip fed back, extra gold, and it'll be good. So I disagree that the SDF would be better without a token. I think a token's good. I don't think a token helps Sport.Fun right now, as of today. However, I think long term, the token is going to be great utility. In terms of it offering the best ROI, I don't know whether it's the best, but it's possibly going to be up there should there be a lot of buy pressure down the line. But again, I think for the next 6 months, we're going to see sell pressure constantly on the token as people are earning their rewards. So it's an interesting one. And go on.
I was going to say, like, part of me hopes it's not the best because that means the other two aren't that great. Or maybe they all thrive. Who knows?
Time will tell.
Right.
Talking about, buy pressure and reasons to buy, the next statement is we need to be able to swap gold for fun in the app. I agree. I think having to go off to another platform, some people are having to use new, I don't know the word, your Kraken, your token, your base, things that they don't use potentially for the game, having to use new wallets. It's a barrier. It's always a barrier that people have. Unfortunately, that's the space that we're in, crypto Web3. It's the perks of what you get with it. But I think, being able to swap gold for fun will be brilliant because there's been times where I've looked. I haven't actually checked today's rewards. I think they should be out by now. But there has been times where I've got like 70 gold sat there and I'm going, I don't really want to buy any players. And I'm looking at my fun token and I'm just below level 4. If I had the opportunity, I probably would have just, I'll throw it in gold. So I think that would be beneficial should that be coming into it.
Yeah, I think that's all we can really say on it, to be honest.
Fun level rewards and rebates are great. What do you think on them? Have you enjoyed getting the little, rebates?
Yeah, they know what's fun, and fun is getting stuff back and like being able to see it. Where I think it's actually really good that they're doing that they're doing like separate distributions as opposed to just like topping off our like TP or gold, because it's like, hey, here's something extra just for having the token. And it's like, hey, thank you very much. I will take that.
No, definitely. I've just had a little look as of recording. It's saying calculating rewards, crunching the numbers, and then, you log on, you hit redeem, and all of a sudden, middle of the week when there's no tournaments ending, you get extra TP, you can open more packs, you've got more gold to spend, and it's just the circle of life. I think it's brilliant. Linking back to the outrageous claim potentially for the NFL in the market cap, we've got Fun Token will reach $1. Put your tokenomic brain on, Laird, and what do you think on that one?
I have no idea, man. That's it. So I think the better question is, and maybe they just happen at the same time, but does the Fun Token hit $1 before the market cap reaches 100 million?
Well, you said that it would never reach 100 million. So
I didn't say never. I just think that
are you looking at the length of time?
Yeah, both of those numbers are just so much bigger than where we are right now, and so like it's hard for me to picture what everything looks like if that actually happens. I would love it to happen, of course. In fact, based on what I have, I would let's do that. But like, I think a lot has to happen before those numbers get touched.
I wouldn't even know what needs to go into it to get it to $1. But it's I don't think I feel like the game would have to be like 100, if not hundreds times bigger in terms of user base. And it would have, I think we'd have to hit 100 million market cap in the NFL before we hit $1 on the token. Yeah. And again, I've said this in previous episodes that I think the token will only ever be used by a small percentage of players that play the pro version of Sport.Fun. I don't think it will be a blanket thing. Obviously, you will earn fun token through playing Sport.Fun. So that's, one thing. But I don't think that we see people will go out their way and drop thousands and thousands of dollars on the fun token just to fast track their way to level 6. So yeah, I don't think I can see the fun token ever reaching $1, but I'd love to be proved wrong. My limited knowledge just tells me that that's so far away that I think, I'll be having children running around the house before we hit $1.
Again, we would love it to hit $1.
Oh, fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd be laughing in my Porsche right now. I certainly wouldn't be sitting in rainy West Midlands in England. So
yeah, it's just that. We'd love to. The platform just is so different.
Yeah.
At that level that who knows, like my brain can't figure that out.
Moving on to the final kind of section. This one is clearly they know that you're now part of the podcast. SDF is dollar for dollar more fun than So Rare. Over to you, sir.
I think they're very different products. I think like I enjoy both of them. I have way more frustrations with So Rare. More on the lineup thing than anything else. I've focused on that a lot. That like So Rare doesn't have a DNP solution that that has killed a lot of enjoyment for me, particularly of late in terms of like specific, game weeks and tournaments and stuff like that, where I'll have 3 players who played really well. And I'm excited about that. And then like the 4th one doesn't play. And I'm like, oh, it's just a total kick in the nuts. And like that experience doesn't happen on Sport.Fun, where like if 2 of my players do really well, I'm like, let's go. I'm actually going to win something. And so I don't necessarily want to like compare the fun, because like there are things on, so like I like collecting cards on So Rare, and that's just a total money sink, but it is a level of fun, and that's not available on Sport.Fun. And I don't want that on Sport.Fun. They're just very different. But I will say like the frustration points of So Rare are very clearly addressed on Sport.Fun that make that both of them like attractive to me. But like the Sport.Fun stuff is like following your live players is more fun.
Yeah. Do you believe then potentially you've grown frustrated with So Rare, whereas you've got fresh patience for Sport.Fun? Do you think it's just because you've been playing for So Rare for so long that you're kind of like, it's like any friendship where you see your friend and you've got so much love for them, but you're like, oh, for God's sake. Whereas Sport.Fun is new and exciting and you're still discovering it. And
yeah, there could be a little honeymoon phase of that. But I think, so I really like building things. Like one of the reasons I joined So Rare Data is because it was like a new company. We got to like build the company up, and it felt like over the last 5 years, So Rare, just the older your company is, the more kind of established you are. And so you're, not that I like worked for So Rare and helped build it, but like it did feel like I was part of being something that was like being built up. And I don't feel that way at So Rare anymore, but I fully feel that on football.fun, that like it's fun. It's early enough that, you can recognize a lot of people on the platform,
Mm.
um, and the people who work for football.fun are talk to you a lot more because they're building the product, and that stuff really interests me. And so like that's one of the reasons why I love talking about sport.fun so much, is because it's kind of like, oh, here's a little bit of a challenge. How do you change that? And it's building the platform up is what I
Mm.
really enjoy. And we're at that phase in sport.fun right now.
No, decent. I think for me, I can answer quite clearly. For me personally, it's tenfold more fun than So Rare. I think I've actually got one more player. I think I've got Mo Salah left to sell of my So Rare gallery. I think, yeah, gallery it's called. Um, I struggled with So Rare. I didn't find any reason to come on actively, which
Mhm.
then meant I'd often forget to do lineups because I'm having to set lineups on, Friday at 3 o'clock for games on Saturday, and my mind doesn't compute that.
Sure.
Um, DNPs killed me off. I think we've spoken before. I had Hugo Ekitike. I'd kind of put my next 3 weeks lineups in, and I had Hugo Ekitike in there, and then I forgot to change it, knowing that he'd been injured for the past week. So I went into a team with a DNP because, again, not So Rare's fault. That's my fault for not being active. But yeah, I had so much fun buying cards on So Rare. Absolutely love it when they do the wheel and you get the tickets and you go in for air and you're trying to buy on auctions and you're waiting for the timers. I had heaps of fun on that aspect, but the actual day-to-day playing of So Rare was kind of, yeah, it just wasn't for me. Simple as that, really.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think it is a game for everybody. Like it's one of those games that um, looks really easy and simple, and then when you
mm,
start playing and it's anything but. And if you see what those next steps are, and you're just like, I don't know about that, like I get
yeah.
it, I get it.
So that's where I was at. Final points of this part 2 of the episode will be in. Um, Third party / independent apps are developing faster than the main site. It's quite a twisted one. Do you want to lead us out on that one?
So obviously, I worked for like the number one third party site for So Rare, and
Hmm.
I have I'm very passionate in the opinion that the game sites themselves, so like football.fun's own website, doesn't need to have everything to make you an elite player on the platform. Like there should be a third party ecosystem of sites and tools that help you on the site. So are there things that would be better to see on the site? Like if I could see tournaments beyond 3 weeks ago or whatever it is, like, yeah, I would like to see that. But the do I need to see every transaction of a player on football.fun on the actual website? No. Like I'm happy to go to Tenero and do that. And I think
Mm,
having third party sites allows um, allows the sport.fun people to see what other people want in their tools. And it's like, oh, maybe we
yeah,
should have that on the site. Maybe we shouldn't. But I'm like passionate about the fact that third party sites should exist for these types of platforms. And the the growth of third party sites is just an indication of how many people are passionate about the
yeah,
platform itself. And that was one of the things that I long struggled with So Rare about. That at one point So Rare was like, all right, we're just going to have everything on our site. And it's like, now you're taking resources away from making the game better. You're not going to do it as
yeah,
well as other people who have the time to dedicate to it. You don't understand the game as well as the users do because you're not the hardcore users like the people who are building these tools. And so I think some of the third party sites that are popping up for football.fun are already like amazingly impressive. And it's crazy
yeah,
like how quickly they started up, like the FDF tracker, which became Tenero. Like I'm in awe at how quickly
yeah,
that came about and is so useful and easy to use. And it's probably just a copy of like other things, but it like works so well for sport.fun that like yeah, I'm just like, it's crazy how good these tools are and how quickly they're up. And I'm excited to see like what the next ones become.
No, definitely. I mean, massive, massive shout out to different people. You know, I mean, I always forget the kind of the handles and the Twitter handles and the Discord handles, but you know, there's so many brilliant sites popping out. We're seeing different kind of apps on the base app. We're seeing, obviously, we had Bacon on a few weeks back with his app. There's so many different iterations of things, and I think the beauty of it as well is these third party kind of, you know, independent applications. They often make each other better. So, you know,
Mhm.
you get 10 a row. So if anybody wants to get anything player tracking now, you either have to do something different to 10 a row, or you have to do it better than 10 a row. Um, and in which case it just kind of pushes everything better. And I definitely agree that it's nice that the team can kind of say, look, we are planning to do this, but because users already have it elsewhere, crack on, we'll focus on other things, we'll circle back to it, and go from there. But the final point, which I have to say this how it was messaged. We've got all in caps, dark mode. My eyes are ... I think that sums up the brilliant end to the episode. I think, yeah, we talk about the kind of the independent apps, the third party apps moving faster than the main site. We need the main site to move faster on the dark mode. You know, too many times am I lying in bed with the laptop, getting an elbow to the ribs from the missus saying, turn the brightness down. I'm like, I can't do anything about it. It's a power of white off the laptop. Um, I
So,
look forward to the day that I log in and I can go bang, dark mode.
I mean, if you notice, like all of the third party sites are in dark mode.
Yep. Literally every single one. Yeah.
I'm with
And I
you.
mean, I've got a Chrome extension that does it. But when you're looking at tracking, like it doesn't pull the color through properly, and you lose some of the buttons and some of the graphs. And I'm like, that's more frustrating having 80% of a site in dark mode than it is to have 100% of the site in you know, light mode. So yeah, bring us dark mode, and we shall be happy. Um, yeah, I think, I mean, we've covered every single one of these points that have been given. You know, massive thank you to everybody who's sent over these suggestions, these statements, these questions. You know, I won't name anybody who said what, but you know who you are. So massive, massive thank you for allowing this episode to be possible. Is there any other statements, Laird, you want to exit on?
No, no, I
No,
just like that's
we've covered them all.
yeah, yeah. It's one of these like we obviously had like a bunch of topics, but these are things that are like people are talking about, and I think this show is kind of just that. We're just speaking out loud what people are writing in Discord and thinking about it, and so um,
Definitely.
if you're listening to this and you're like, oh yeah, I'm the one who said that, and it's like, yeah, we'll keep your name hidden, but yeah, the whole point is just to talk about things that people are talking about, and so here we are.
No, nice one. Well, thank you everybody for listening. That will be, yeah, we'll be back next week for another episode of the Third Half Podcast.